Ow. Alright guys, for today's video, I'm just using the Z28 as an example here. If you've seen the past two videos, I swapped out the water pump and the heater core back there, had to change a couple of hoses. During the water pump video, I said that my lower radiator hose got stuck, even though it was new, it got stuck onto the water pump. And a lot of times you will have hoses that will get stuck, especially ones that go through heat cycles, as opposed to like a fuel line that's kind of like isolated off to the side. We have something like a radiator hose that has cold and then hot coolant going through it back and forth, and then it cools down and it heats back up again. That can cause things to kind of get stuck together. So here are just some tips and things that you can use depending on the situation of what your hose is and what's stuck, where it's stuck, how it's stuck. Ways that you could, when in doubt, get off a hose if you can't just pull it off your hand. Okay, first and foremost, if you're lucky, you can just take the hose, twist it with your hand, pop it right off. All right. If that doesn't work, you may need to move out depending on what the hose is and the size of it. You can use a pair of pliers. I have had a lot of luck with channel locks in the past with getting off hoses. It all depends on what the hose is and what the hose is connecting to. If it is connecting to, like let's see here, your upper radiator hose here. Oh, why am I getting a shadow there? Okay. Oh, my hand, that's why. So your upper radiator hose right here, okay, you could get to that with the channel locks and get it off nice and easily. Thing you may have to worry about though is the tanks on pretty much all radiators now, anything like, from 80s on, are pretty much plastic. So you have to remember that if you're going to use the channel locks and open it up to get it wide enough to fit a hose inside and you squeeze on it, you have to squeeze enough to get traction from the teeth into the hose to be able to twist it back and forth and rock and try and break it free without squeezing so hard that you break the plastic. Okay? And downside to these is obviously you can break the plastic, but also too, channel lock jaws are flat. So you're only going to have really small contact points on the hose you're trying to break free. If you have a hose that is within the size of, I don't know, whatever, depends on whatever size vice grips you have, this is something you can use, because you can see you have a more rounded section to the vice grip there that gives you more purchase on the hose. And you can do the same thing as channel locks. You wouldn't really want to tighten it down and lock it at the bottom so you squeeze it. You kind of want to have it so you're squeezing and holding and then rocking back and forth. I do not have here to show you, but they do make, and I'll put it like right there, special kind of, they look like long needle nose pliers that have turned at kind of an angle and have almost like a 360 look to them that open up. It's the same sort of thing. It grips on the hose and it grips it around the hose and you wiggle it back and forth. They are for smaller hoses. I probably need to get a set like that, but that is also another option. If it's a hose that, like for me, it was the lower radiator hose right here on the water pump got stuck. Of course you can't see that on there, but the hose got fused to the input shaft of the water pump. So another option you would have would be picks. Now you can get a set of picks, or they have special hose removal picks. They're mostly the same thing. What you do is you would take the pick, depending on your situation how it goes, and slide it in the hose, in between the hose and whatever it's stuck on, and kind of slide it around. But this is the key here. You want to make sure that you don't put it in there and then rock the pick back and forth like this. Okay? If you do this, you have a chance of popping the hose if you're trying to reuse it. I actually did run into this situation here because I was going around the back side of the water pump back here, and I think I rocked it a little bit, replaced it all, filled it all up, took the car for a dry, came back, and then it was just a hole that was so small it would just kind of bubble up and pop out. And then when I just replaced the hose again, so I drained it all again, replaced the hose, refilled it back up, I pulled the hose off, and I couldn't even find, by looking at it, where I had popped the hole, but I know there was a hole in it because it was leaking. So that is the downside of the picks. Also, depending on on how far the hose is onto whatever it's attaching to. If you have like this much of where the hose would sit and this is where the end of it is, like on the water pump, as you can see, that pick is not getting very far down in there. So you can't really force yourself down in it too much without damaging something. You may have to use, if at all possible, some sort of a straight pick to go down farther in there, or a very, very small screwdriver. You can just look around and try and get different pick sets of different sizes. Just make sure you're going nice and gentle if you want to reuse the hose. The final way I can think of that you would want to get a hose off, and this is kind of a last resort type of deal. Utility knife, razor, knife of some sort. Sometimes hoses are just so far gone and so stuck, your only recourse is to take the knife and cut down for where it attaches up, so that you then can kind of peel the hose off like it's a banana peel. Obviously that's a destructive method, and you're going to be replacing that hose that you're doing in some way. And the same thing goes back as it does with the channel locks and pliers. Be careful when you're using this as to what it is the hose is attaching to, because if it's like it's plastic, you push in and cut down way too far, you'll cut through the plastic. Or if you don't cut all the way through it, you'll cut far enough to where it starts weakening it, or you cut enough to where it creates a groove in the plastic, and then even with the new hose and clamp down tight enough, it doesn't seal all the way down the groove you created, and then whatever it is will leak out. So these are the basics, the basic things that should help you kind of get most hoses off if you need it. I should also say there's one more type of hose removal plier that looks like kind of two V's together that sit together, and you squeeze the handle and it spreads the V's apart like that, and that will kind of push one side against the thing and the other side against the hose and try and force it off. That's all well and good if it's not super stuck, but the problem with that is if you're pushing like this, that V could end up pushing the hose back and rolling it over on itself, or kind of splitting the hose, and then you got to replace the hose anyways. So there's different methods of doing it. There's different pros and cons to each method. Having just one option of each would be good to go. I mean, everyone should have a pick set. They're like a buck at Harbor Freight. A utility knife you can use for everything, and everybody needs just pairs of pliers in some way. Those are the best ways I have come to find to get hoses off in various states of stuckness. If you can think of any other way that I kind of didn't include here, feel free to leave it in the comments. I'm sure some people will say maybe heat the hose up a little bit with a torch or something like that. You could. But other than that, just let me know if you got any other ideas that'll help other people out. Alright guys, that'll do for today. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Thanks for watching.